You can't see my camera, can you?
Nope.
Oh, God. Hi, Ed. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Well, I'm so glad that our power didn't go out tonight. I figured we'll just let some people come in. I'm unable to see it from YouTube,
Okay.
But I do have some questions. I'm just gonna pull up these banners. But how are you tonight?
Not too bad. Not too bad.
Good, good. Did you share with your audience on Facebook?
Yeah, I told them that this was coming up. Yeah.
Awesome, awesome. Well, hey, everybody that's joining us. Looks like we have 7 people in here, so that's cool. I wanted to, let me just put, I'm kind of playing around with these, but I had some questions, but so I wrote them ahead of time. I hope you don't mind.
Yeah.
So Ed, tell us a little bit about yourself and your podcast, and then what we'll do, since you're limited on time, I know you have to work early. We'll set up another chat, obviously, with everything coming up, and then people can do the replay that don't make it. Does that sound good?
Yeah, sound great to me.
Awesome. So, my first question: what initially prompted you to look into Garett Kirts?
Well, when we first started Crime Pursuit, Delphi was the very first case that we thought would be a great case to launch our podcast, being that, Crime Pursuit is located in central Indiana. Delphi is just a little under 2 hours away. So we thought it would be best to say, hey, our first podcast should be Delphi, with Libby and Abby. So
And that was your first podcast, or was that your first Indiana case that with this trifecta?
that was my first podcast for Crime Pursuit. I have been podcasting with Ed Bounds Live podcast locally, and we covered the Delphi case locally. Carrie, Libby German's mother,
Okay.
and a friend they came from Lexington to our studio. And so we did it on the Ed Bounds Live podcast. And then later, when we went from local to worldwide, we said, hey, I reached out to Carrie, told her, what I was doing, and, she was behind it. And, we did Delphi 1 and 2.
And you actually went down on the ground, so you aren't far from there. But that's cool, because I think a lot of people think I'm from Indiana. I'm one state up, so I'm in Michigan, but close enough, I mean, this bridge guy is all of our problems. I like to say we're all partners in true crime, and I know the internet causes a lot of unnecessary pain for families of violent crimes, but it is a necessary part of this digital age we're living in, the information age. And I really am, I gotta say, everybody I've met in the true crime community is like the best of the best to me, the cream of the crop. And I think it's pretty cool, even though I know there's a lot of like fighting amongst people. It's just, that's what you get when you get real life. This is real murder and real families. But I think overall, I feel honored that, the community is letting me try to help because I'm locked at home. So it's interesting. That's how you started your podcast. I think this case in Delphi resonates with everybody, it seems,
Yeah, yeah. It when we first took on this, I told the team that I had then, I said, before we record this, we have to all go to Delphi together. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. This is the only way. And everybody agreed, and we spent 3 days there. And it was real interesting because when we went there, we had no idea. Now, take in mind that, I had interviewed Carrie, Libby German's mother, on the Ed Bounds Live podcast. And, we just had no idea who was responsible. And
Right.
when she came and did the podcast, we was coming up on the 1 year anniversary of the murder. So, when, it was mandatory that all of us went there because the way I look at it, in order to really know what you're dealing with, you have to go face it head on. And I felt going to the Monon Bridge Trail and looking exactly and being exactly where those two little young girls took their last steps, it was very important. And after we did it, I'm glad that I made that decision. Um, and, here we are.
Here we are, and we're all playing a part, an important part, and I know it's just amazing to me. The let's face it, there's been a lot of publicity on this case, and all of it is good in my opinion. I think, and I'll say this because I know that I have my suspicions, and I know you have your strong suspicions about Garett with Delphi, but until we're told otherwise by law enforcement, we have to assume that he is out there, dangerous, and in amongst us, and I want to, walk that bounds because how many coincidences, before it's mathematically impossible, but crazier things have happened, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so you were on the ground there. See, with the pandemic and the lockdown, I think that's a big part of what prompted me to even be thinking about how I could help. And it's pretty amazing, the things you can do with just a phone call, right?
Right.
And I can't wait to share with both of our audiences that story once, in the future, near future, hopefully, about how you and I met and the good sleuth, bad sleuth narrative, because that's interesting. We really worked as a team and we weren't even trying to, you and I, I
Right.
hope it inspires other people. I saw that Jason Herbert, they covered the Ray Hainish case, and I know you covered that as well, right? Oh, are you there, Ed?
Yeah, I'm here. Oh, I thought you was asking someone else. I'm sorry. Yes, we covered the Ray Hedges as well. And what had happened was when we covered Delphi, we were able to get information once we found out who we believe was responsible for these crimes. We was able to get information not only regarding Ray Hannis, but Nicole Bowen as well.
So then you were invested. I see.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So when you're looking at this many people being killed by the same individual, this would say that he's a serial killer. So
I think it's fair to say. So today, for the listeners, I did put a video up. You guys you can pop out and check that out now, or come, check it out later. And I read the article that Gregory Myers did, and I think he's joining us. Looks like he's in the studio. He works, he was there today and he provided us with the video and he wrote the article, which was very, very, very nice of him. He's been, so another partner in true crime. But Garett will serve 55 years in the Indiana Department of Corrections. And I'm interested to see what he has to say, if anything now. The plan was that he would contact me after he got moved. And my part that I can play, because I mean, my children and I, we're still on quarantine, even they're from school too. So I can do what I can from home. I couldn't do the adventure you did, but it's great, that you guys did. Let me pull up a question. Now, you talked to, sorry, I'm just, so your logo, that's what prompted you. My next question would be, did Crime Pursuit, you or your team who was working with you, did they document any inconsistencies while interviewing Garett?
Yeah, we had documented quite a bit. They had took a lot of notes with a lot of stuff and forwarded everything over to me. And I was able to go through all that. I know a couple retired homicide detectives, and I was able to forward everything to them. And we all went out to breakfast. We had a meeting regarding their findings, and we was pretty much on the same page.
I see. So why don't you go into that a little bit further? When you actually spoke to him, right? And then you sent in your reporters on the record.
Yes, what I did was, we did like the 1, 2, 3 punch. And so what I did, I sent two different people from the team to contact him on what they would call the inmate email contact thing. It's now where you can reach out to any person that's pretrial detainee or person sentenced to the Indiana Department of Corrections an email, and they can respond back or video call or call. And he responded back to both of them within an hour. And so once we seen how that went, then that's when I jumped right in there and, you know, and he called me. I mean, he responded like, kind of like weary with talking, with emailing me. But then I got to, collect call and I accepted and pay for the call. And,
Yeah.
And so we started talking and it went real good at first until I put him on the hot seat. So
Right. But see, now you and your team contacted him after he had done that, hours of interviews with me. And
right.
it was a really interesting dynamic because seems like, you correct me if I'm wrong, but you took what you got from listening to my interviews, and then I kind of did vice versa when I went back in, for round 2.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so when you tell me about um, that conversation, or tell us about how that went.
Well, at first, I told him that he was familiar with who I was because of us covering Delphi, because we were the only one. And he made a good point that he said, and his exact words were, all the fucking people that did podcasts, whatever, you motherfuckers the only one that put my name out there that involved me in this shit. And he says, I didn't do it. And, he went on talking about the Ray Hannis case and the Nicole Bowen. And he tried to, I could tell Garett tried to manipulate me. And he went on. And when I told him that I had spoken with authorities there with the Ray Hannis case and what I knew about the text messages and so on and so on. Then Garett got quiet, and he knew I wasn't, bullshitting him. So he he just kind of like, I don't know, it kind of felt a little attacked, and so we kind of ended that call. Time ran out. I put one of the first women that I had contact him. I put her back on him. Um, he expressed uh, how, how upset and how I was
Yeah.
stressing him out, and so on and so on.
And he did a racial attack, right? I
Well, that
mean,
that came later because me and him, he came back and he texts and we called back, and I told him about a deal that could benefit him, and we had a good talk, and he paused for a long time, and I could swear the pause was
yeah, same with
probably,
me
yeah,
on
about
that
15
topic.
seconds. And so and he had to think for a minute, and then catch himself, and
Well,
then
no,
when
I
I
think he might be thinking because he inquired after we first spoke about it in a second time, and then he inquired, and I have that on the record actually, but it's the best thing that he could do. Now, why don't you explain that to us? Why, as it was, do you feel like on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely do you think your personal opinion that he is involved or responsible for the Delphi murders?
on a 1 to 10, I'd say 10 plus, and let me tell you why.
Really? Okay.
And I tell people all the time, you have these Gray Hughes and Anthony Greeno, now which Anthony Greeno and that little squad, they go there to the trail because that's their area, whatever.
Hell
But
yeah, they're doing their part, right?
they're
Playing their
doing their part, but they go there, and they just didn't, really get their shovels out. With us, we went there and we did investigative work. And getting there, we had to come up with who would do something like this. If this was a person that was an outsider, they could just do it right there and be gone. Why would they just kill two little girls? A lot of people think it was, well, it was a child molester, drifter, or whatever. What we looked at, and I'm gonna tell you what caught my attention, that we knew we was dealing with someone that was local, that knew where they was at, is when we come to the little creek. I call it the river. I don't, whatever, but it's the creek.
what I mean,
Creek.
we know what we're talking about, right? It's
Right.
details are just details, right?
So when we looked at how much wooded area they had to go through to get there, I'm thinking, as the criminal aspect, he could have just killed them right there before getting to the water. So why was it so important for him to have those girls cross that river, that stream, that, whatever? Why
Right. The
was it so
part.
important? He forced them to cross there. And when
Do
they
you think
crossed, huh?
because isn't there, do you think because of the shoe, Liberty shoe being found on the one side, I mean, it seems when I think of Liberty, I emailed Kelsey this on Twitter, and I like stalk her. My big sister and I feel like their story, and it's like Kelsey's my big sister. I think they fought, and I think they might have ran. Maybe it wasn't, but I see what you're saying as far as he knew the property. That's like your speculation, right?
Yeah, and and just respectfully, I disagree. I think,
Well, that's what we're supposed to do,
yeah, I think Libby, I think Libby was the leader of trying to keep the two of them calm. I think she was the leader that was telling Abby that day, it's gonna be okay. We'll just do what he says until we figure this out. It's gonna be okay. And when he forced them across that creek, and because these poor little girls, they didn't know what was next. And then when they got to that property, we had to try to figure out why was he wanted them to get across that creek. The next thing we did was, okay, let's do the entire Monon Trail hike. Let's do it all. We did it. We did the whole entire thing for 2.5 hours. Okay. And that was with me taking a break, whatever. Now, when you go back and listen to the interviews, the Libby and Abby's family and the police said around that they reported missing around after 6 or whatever. The family and the sheriff's department was out there after that time. They said they suspended the search a little after midnight due to weather conditions. Okay, but the family of the girls remained searching to 2:30 a.m. somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, if those two girls would have been where they were found that next morning, they would have been found that night. We had spoke to enough witnesses when we were there who had already searched that area that night. So to go to prove my point, that whole area was searched up and all down through that where the creek, the river, whatever that run. The family was desperate, as what you would expect grandparents,
Oh yeah.
cousin would be. You know, you're gonna stop. You're not gonna stop because you're looking at it's cold out here. I can't leave my daughter out here. My granddaughter is dark. It's cold out here.
And Mike Patty, God bless his heart. I have just
Yeah,
he reminds me of my father-in-law, and he's like America's father-in-law, and that the fight that they have for those girls, it's inspiring. They're American Family Unit.
yeah,
And that I think that's part of it too.
yeah. He
You're right,
wouldn't quit. He would
but
not quit, and they kept
possible,
going.
right? That they were is this where you're going? I could be wrong, but that
What well,
they were
what I'm saying is they stopped around 2:30 in the morning. So let's add up the numbers.
okay.
So this search
You do that.
started
I'm
from
not good at
after
math.
6, and this from 6 p.m. and didn't stop till after 2 a.m. Okay, so now the next morning, everybody come back there. They volunteers meet up at one central location where they had to sign their name of who they were if they were participating and volunteering with the search. They got started around 10 a.m. or a little after 10 a.m. And by noon, the girls were found. Okay. So you're talking about 2 hours. So remember, I told you, me and the team did the whole hike of that whole area for 2.5 hours, taking breaks. It was 2.5 hours. So my thing was, where was the girls that night when the police, the family, volunteers were searching for them? They had to be subdued somewhere very close. And when we put together with Ron Logan's property in the horse barns, Ron Logan's house sets really far from where he keeps his horses from. And the horse barns are down at the back. No one knew that area better than Ron Logan was Garett Kirts. No one knew that area as good.
Well, that brings up a question I have. Let me pull it up. It's in 1 second because, and I just, for anyone that's joining us, we have Ed Bound from the Crime Pursuit podcast and Gregory Myers, who was so kind to give us that video today and send us his article, which you guys can check out. I posted that this afternoon about the sentencing of Nicole Bowen. Garett will spend 55 years for the murder and torture of her. And we're discussing tonight with Ed and interviewing him because him and his team interviewed Garett after about a month after my initial interview, and so this is overdue, but for good reason. We've been waiting for today. So let me see this. Let me pull this up because it's my opinion that the reason why Ron Logan and they said that they were onto something early on, right? Mm-hmm. Once that was the first interview that Doug Carter did. It was in May after 2019 in the new sketch. And he thought they were onto something in the beginning. Well, so I just, Occam's razor, looked back, and that was when, when they did that second or third search of Ron's property, outhouses, barn. And I mean, that was March 17th. That's extraordinary to be searching a crime scene almost 4 weeks later for evidence. Did they find something? It's interesting to me. My question is how do you think Garett was driving? Who do you think could have been driving him? And how does Ron play into this? Because I know people speculate. I don't feel Ron was involved at all, but what do I know? I think it is something we have to address, though, because that property, whether it's Garett or not, it seems significant, doesn't it? That maybe there was evidence found there later, or you tell me, Ed. I don't know.
Well, the police, they never tell us what evidence they found or what they have. But I don't think, let me be clear.
And I put this up on the screen so people know what I'm asking.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let me be clear. I don't feel Ron Logan was involved whatsoever. It was made very clear. The evidence that we do know is Ron Logan wasn't there that day. And one of the reasons got Ron in trouble because he was on house arrest, and but I don't believe he was involved. But I think Ron knew more than what he did, and let me tell you why. Because when they found the girls and all that investigation going on, Ron got arrested, and then people was just like, "Oh my God, we knew it! We knew it! He did it! He did it! He didn't come find out he didn't have nothing to do with it." He was arrested for house arrest violation.
Right, but let's face it, that was because he did provide. He said he was getting tropical fish. It turned out to not be true. He ended up being at the dump. These are and I don't want anyone's lives ruined. And I pray for Ron Logan. From what I heard he went through, and Ed, I know you're going to expand on this, but it seems like I understand that he was driving, and he was. I've looked just as recently as yesterday, a habitual traffic offender, mm-hmm. And that does pose a threat. But if you go back, and I actually have a 14-minute video put together of, basically Carter saying, what were we on to early on, and that search was significant. My question is who would have been driving Garett? He says he didn't have a driver's license. We know that he drove, but do you think because he was using drugs and I have this up here, my computer's being silly, but let me pull this up because I feel like this might be someone that wouldn't Garett have had to been in regular contact with his dealer or dealers? Most addicts are always ensuring their next fix. Could that be someone that could coordinate the cell phone? You know what I mean?
Well, what we found out was that before Ashley went to jail, she had an apartment that was extremely close to the Monon Bridge Trail. And Garett was staying with it. And I know he denied that when you interviewed him, but we found out that
say that again. He was what?
He was staying with Ashley in an apartment that was very close to the trail.
Okay, so I'm glad you said that because I don't think that was that time. I don't think that. I think that was in 2016. I don't think that she had a lease there then. I think that it is obviously another odd coincidence, but do you have information that shows that? Because from what I could find, and I'm the one that's trying to get, these guys to, just confess, right? And do the right thing, because I mean, damage is done. There's no reason not to, but explain that to me. I know it's, under argument. People have differing views about the apartment.
Well, we spoken to the landlord, and so there was two separate apartments that she dealt with the same landlord. And that's when we found out that's how we found out that Garett was staying there after Ashley was arrested. So, he knew the area very well. It was true. I don't see why the landlord would just make that up. And he made it clear that he was interviewed by the Indiana State Police and the FBI. So, he couldn't go into a whole lot of details, directed us that we need to talk to them before he could, really go into a whole lot of details. He was not allowed
Well,
to
yeah,
tell us.
because I don't think, I mean, at least as in my experience, I actually did property management, and I couldn't give away people's information. I could never verify if someone lived, but I also get that smaller landlords don't also go by those. I manage like larger properties, but it is just it's another, just coincidence. And then the other thing, and then I want to ask you this question up here is, that correct me if I'm wrong, but that you actually got confirmation or have a source or two sources that the family has acknowledged per cousins that he's under investigation for Delphi, or do I have that backwards?
Well, yeah, no, he is under investigation for Delphi. And he has admitted on your show, he's admitted to me
Oh,
over
yeah.
the phone that they have questioned him numerous times regarding this.
Right. I just meant because of the speculation of him locking himself in Uncle Cody's room, and from I don't have more, I have one source, so not two. It's just there is a lot pointing there, isn't it? Now, this is the question I want to go into, Ed, because I want to pick your brain, and I wanted to kind of talk this out because I don't know all those details like you guys do. I know what he said to me, but why do you think Garett's parents refused to talk to law enforcement regarding, let's first of all, Mark Kirts, Garett's father, being reported to the tip line, and then a second time to confirm alibi?
Well, let me be clear. When it comes to criminal activity or anything, and you are a mother before you're anything, when you're
100%. And I just have to say today, Garett's family, Nicole's family, Ray's family, there's his actions has victimized a lot of people. It's like something like this affects thousands of people just directly. So it is a sad day for even his parents as well, and I have wondered if let's say Mrs. Kirts does suspect that it's Garett. I mean, she would literally be maybe the only one that could verify the alibi. And if she knows he's locked away, but if she comes forward, maybe she worries he'll be put down with the death penalty, because let's face it, that's, you know what I mean?
Well, yeah. First of all, you got to take Miss Garrett as a mom before she's anything, and
Agreed.
have to, and I have to respect that. We had somebody reach out to her. I sit and listen next to the car when they spoke to her on the phone. Um, you got to put yourself in her shoes, and then with me being in my shoes, if one of my sons, is accused of anything like that, we don't know all the full details. But as a dad, I'm not going to come forward and say, well, you know what? Here's what I know, and this is what my son did. You're a father and a mother before you're anything.
But I feel like yes, exactly, and the mother. Do you think because there's what raised my eyebrows, and everybody is innocent to proven guilty, guys. We're just talking true crime here. As far as we know, I said this earlier, but I know there's more people joining us. Until law enforcement tells us that the bridge guy has been arrested and we hear it directly from them, we have to assume that he's out there and dangerous and amongst us. And that's my stance, because we can have suspicions and we can have, connect dots, but bridge guy, if you're listening, we're not going to stop. I don't know if there's more than one person involved, but the fact that Mr. Kirts, they showed up to his place of employment, and he's a plumber, and he called his attorney, that raised eyebrows. And tell me what your feeling or intuition is on that. Do you think that's also just a protecting of their kid, or do you think it's because of his ongoing at the time he had open, I think he may still have open criminal.
Well, I think they've just protecting the kid, and I respect that.
But let's talk more, because I think, from what I know, at least one of these two families, I don't think they're the opposite of who killed their sister, daughter, granddaughter. They just want him away, locked away, you know what I mean? And then to go on. So I have to say this just because, we have to think that Mr. and Mrs. Kirts may be listening, and my heart goes out to you as a mother, like Ed said. And, you do have a community of people here because you guys are victims to these crimes. You know what I mean? Whether he's involved in Delphi or not. And this true crime community will embrace you, because it's kind of a part of trying to understand why our children in this generation is committing so much violent crime, and the drugs. I think that I hope and I feel confident that they would be embraced rather than ridiculed. I think that would be a worry as well,
Mm-hmm.
But because whether they're protecting their son or not, he's not going to see the light of day again. And as parents, deep down, it's weighing on them, whoever bridge guy's parents are. And what Garett told me, that his parents always said the truth will set you free. And he would tell me often that his mom would like my view on the world. Like, we can't change the past, but how can we make it the best going forward? And so I just want to keep that in mind. I think that we have to, if we really want answers to this, if bridge guy's mom's listening, whoever that is, and they suspect their son, you know what you need to do, and you need to do the right thing. Don't you agree, Ed? And
yeah.
we will figure it out from here, but it's, that's not your burden to carry. You have,
Plus, I agree, but
you don't want criminal liability. And if there's a family member that may fear they could have criminal liability of coming forward, I have always said, talk to a lawyer, and before you ever, contact law enforcement, get a deal of immunity. And there are lawyers right now we could get for someone to do that. So if someone feels they're in danger, if someone feels they have criminal liability, the excuses have run out. But I want to make that clear, because I want to encourage everyone to kind of come together as much as possible, because whoever bridge guy's parents are, and just like in Garett's situation, it's not their fault that he murdered Nicole Bowen and Ray Hainish, allegedly. Ray, go ahead, Ed. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I wanted to make sure I said that.
Well, according to the district attorney there, in the county where Ray Hanish was murdered, Garett had confessed that he killed Ray Hanish. And so, and he told them why they have the evidence. So, in my part of it, I don't look at it as allegedly.
Well,
Uh,
he confessed to me, premeditated, and I'll pull this up actually because this is about this. But for legal reasons, I just got to play it safe. I'm already in the hole
right,
financially, but
right.
and I don't mind because it's really kind of like it's funny to me how creative the true crime community has gotten during the pandemic. It seems like, you know, it's just kind of cool to see people help and things like this. I feel like can maybe shake out information. But let me pull this up because this question says, what is your opinion about his history of staging crime scenes, including calculated decision to pose Ray Hanish, allegedly, and using Grinder for cover-up, allegedly, which is what he finally confessed to me after, going through the first story. Do you think that could have, did that raise your eyebrows as far as a similarity per se, the calculation with Ray, as regards to like Delphi and how it could be related?
Well, absolutely, they're not related at all. You know, Garett is smarter than what he plays out to be. If
100%.
Garett keeps his mouth shut, you can't fill him out. He's good, but when he's really trying to distance himself from a case or a situation, he tells on himself. And no one has got him closer. And I'm telling you, with me and me being a man, he shut down and became very belligerent. But when you were talking to him, he was making all the mistakes because
He
instead of
deep
him,
down, he wants to tell it. I mean, he knows, right?
well,
When it
here's the thing: when you were interviewing him, he was trying to fight so hard to distance himself from the Delphi situation. And he spent more time telling you what evidence they didn't have, what they couldn't prove. And when you go back and look at a criminal's behavior, when they do that, they have something to hide. So, me being a former criminal, and I know if I didn't commit a crime, there's nothing to talk about. We have laughter. I'm gonna be like, hey, look,
yeah.
that one I didn't do. You know,
What do you mean former criminal? Maybe we need to do that on part two, Eddie. Is that
well,
why
well,
the petty Eddie? I love it.
okay. Well, let's get into that real quick.
Let's do it. I love that. I mean, we all have our
I
problems, man.
I'm a former gang member, former drug dealer. Been to prison 3 times. Uh,
Really.
yeah,
Let
from the
me pull up
streets,
this question while you finish that then.
and just going through everything. I recently just had my entire criminal record expunged. Thank God for that. But I've done time with serial killers. I've shared the same cell with these type of people, and
Wow.
and I've asked a lot of questions and just listen to their stories, and it's tough to be in that situation. So, well, I see that question, and I can explain that question too. I'll get to that, but so I'm not just some idiot that just jumped on a podcast or YouTube and says, "Hey, I think I know what I'm doing." I do know what I'm doing. I've been in the streets. I lived in Chicago. I've lived in Detroit, Michigan.
And
Uh,
I don't know what I'm doing. So
you
everybody.
know, well, I'm just saying there's people that just don't have no business, and I'm not saying you or me, but people. I let people know that hey, look, I'm not a cop. I'm not a detective or a federal agent, but I've learned a lot from people, and I dealt with these type of people. I think I possibly might know what I'm doing because usually I come up with the right answers.
Well, that's, and that's why I wanted to speak with you. And for anyone that's joining us, Garett Kirts was sentenced today for the murder and torture of Nicole Bowen. He will spend 55 years in the Department of Corrections of Indiana. And he told me that after he was sentenced, he would go on the record and give the blatant truth, about about everything. And so, I want the Ed from Crime Pursuit podcast. And you know what? Tomorrow, after the show, I'll make sure to put your links in the description, Ed.
Okay.
He and his team actually interviewed Kirts, and it's kind of ongoing, guys. And it's an interesting story that one day we'll talk about. I saw a comment. I'm unable to even read some of the comments because I have this update that's stuck on my screen. But somebody said that Garett Kirts is not the bridge guy, and I just want to make sure I say it enough because of it being a live stream. Is that until law enforcement says this is who bridge guy is and gives us a name, we have to assume he's out there, he's dangerous, he's a threat to all American daughters, and he's amongst us. And until we know otherwise, we have to assume that. Never stop sharing the video, because truly, the more people that can see that video, those girls left us, that's what we can do to help. And so I want to let everybody know that we're not saying he is. We're giving an opinion. Ed and I both have interviewed Garett, and as I've told my audience, I'm not sure. I go back and forth by the day, and I've really wanted to let things die down until after the sentencing to see if we could get even law enforcement to comment and exclude him, because the reason I still cover it is because we haven't been able to eliminate him. And if anybody has information that can, please, send it along. But go ahead, Ed. Tell us about the gang culture and tell us about your
Okay, well, I
experience.
see this question here about can you help better understand about gang culture in Indiana? Okay, so let me explain about that here. I know it very well, and it's mainly in the Indiana Department of Corrections. So let me break that down. You have, as far as with the blacks, you have gangster disciples and vice lords. Now, when you move to the white category, you have the dirty white boys, the Aryan Brotherhood, and Saxon Knights. When you move to the Mexican side of it, you have La Raza, then you have the different cartel gangs or whatever. So in the white gangs, the dirty white boys, they have no leverage. They're very small. They're not
Inside
very
prison, correct?
right. These groups are very operational in the Indiana Department of Corrections.
And so everybody knows, I mean, the gangs, we talk about racism in America. That's a different discussion, but I mean, am I wrong, Ed, that all prisons run this way? They run by groups of color, and they actually, I mean, they run pretty
Yeah,
effectively. I mean,
yeah.
that's just how it is.
That's how it is. You stick with your race, and so the blacks stick with the blacks, the whites stick with the white, the Hispanics stick with the Hispanic. And then if you want to get off into the gangs, that's when, all that comes. The most powerful white gang that is in the Indiana Department of Correction and other states is first and foremost is the Aryan Brotherhood. Uh,
Okay, tell me more about that and
they
that.
they have a bigger presence. They have large numbers. They're very dangerous.
Is this true, or am I over the target that the cartels use all of these different types of gangs to distribute drugs. They're the next level up, and through the Midwest. Am I right? They don't really they don't care what happens once it's,
To
you
a
know.
extent, when out in the free world, to a certain extent, because let me say this: the inside the prison walls, the Mexicans really don't want to deal with the blacks, and they deal with the whites more. What they call the white gringos or whatever.
Okay.
Um, they would much preferably deal with the whites than blacks, um, because they know that they have the contacts with dirty correction officers, corrupt prison staff, or whatever. But the
Which there are a lot of. It's an enterprise, right? I
yeah,
mean,
yeah, it's a fair sized enterprise.
oh, we need, just a side note, we need massive criminal justice reform, but keep going.
So they so that's how that usually works. The I don't know what Garrett Kirts is, what his affiliation is. And I saw that video that you posted, and I noticed that, and take in mind, I've been locked up, I know. But when I saw Garrett get out of that van, let me be clear to your listeners and everybody that watched that video. He shaved his head. That was a fresh shaved head.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
That took place this morning before his hearing. Okay. And how if you go back and look at the video, you can tell how pale his head is. And if you really analyze the photo, you can see the redness of irritation from the razors. So, he did that. Why? Because Garrett is wanting to send, he's wanting to send a message, I guess, to make people think that he's a part of some big bad gang or whatever. I don't know. But that's what it appears to me, because you find it very odd that a young man his age would shave his head when, he has lots of hair.
He does have lots of hair, lots of curly hair. And this is just my personal opinion. Again, we're just kind of speculating on what we know. Garrett does shave his head. I thought that was suspicious from the get-go. And there's, I don't know if you noticed, during the process of elimination series, I noticed, and I actually called these different jails where he had the mugshots, and he was in 2017, he was actively disguising his height, weight, and eye color. I mean, and it was obvious. It's on my page, so if anyone wants to see it. But I know there's some discussion about, a lot of people don't think he looks anything like the man on the bridge. And like
Well,
I said, I'm too close. I'm like too
let
close
me address
now.
that. Let me
Okay.
address that. Let me address that.
Okay.
The guy, first of all, when that video was taken, it was on a Snapchat video app. Okay, because of their location and where they was at, it was very, very blurry. All right, it was very blurry. Because of the blurriness in the app, it made it appear that the person on the bridge was very old. Okay, it made it appear that they were old. Now, let's be clear. If the police was looking for someone very old, they would have just stuck with the beginning of what they released. But when they came back with that second press conference,
That's right.
they now inserted the young person into this. And they still had to leave the gap in there of the age of 18 to 40 or whatever. And that was because of legal, when this goes to trial, because it will go to trial. Um, so that's just where that came. If they felt that this person wasn't young, then they would have never had that press conference and said, hey, look at this sketch of this young man.
Some people say and speculate that, which, I mean, I get the argument, that they were just trying to, I mean, they had, obviously there was 2 sketches that can be, here's my opinion. I feel that Doug Carter, the one thing I felt was important that he said was, we're just now getting started. And that's, it goes to your argument. I just don't know why there would be it. If Garett isn't the bridge guy, in my opinion, and my subjective opinion for that matter, then is he, I mean, I would have to assume that he's trying to play the game and not tell me he is, but it would almost seem like it would be something he's doing for attention. It would have to be like a conspiracy to me. There's so much that points to him and that he can't answer for. And whether it's because he's involved or maybe he knows something, I don't know, Ed.
Let me say, I want you to hear this. I want you to hear this. Now, if let's just say this, let's think about when they first released evidence regarding this case, and then the second press conference. The first press conference, it was down the hill, down the hill, down the hill, down the hill. That's all we heard. With an old picture sketch. And it made us as Americans, as families say, oh my God, the voice sounds old. The picture matches the voice.
See, I never thought Bridge Guy was old. I think I'm the only one from the get-go. I thought he was
But
young.
that's what they buried in our minds. So
yes.
when we heard that audio and looked at that sketch, we automatically went to jump to say, in the clothes on the bridge guy, in the hat, because you don't find many people walking around with that type of hat. Hell, my dad he got many of those hats. He hasn't worn them since the 90s.
You mean the first sketch?
The very first sketch is what I'm talking about. Okay. So when you look at that, so you think, oh, this is an old guy that's possibly a child molester, da, da, da. But then when they came back with the last press conference and they had a different sketch and they added to the audio, it went from down the hill to guys down the hill, guys down the hill. Now, if you go back, and I asked law enforcement this, guys and down the hill is on that audio together. They added that in. Now, why do you think they added guys? Guys.
I don't know. Are you implying because it was on the internet? That was like their little.
Because Garett was known for using that word. That was a signature word for him.
And it is for me too, I've noticed. See, that's how
it is for a lot of people. It is for a lot of people. However, right. He's the one that used it. So if you say guys, why does it matter if you said it? Because you're a woman. You wasn't there with the Delphi when that happened. They came back because Garett used that word a lot.
Let me ask you this then, because this is my questioning. I don't feel that, so Thomas Bruce has been someone that has been brought up, and I actually made an account, and I was gonna interview him. I've just, because I've had so many other projects that I've worked on in between the series, I wonder if what always gets me is, why would they say he may be in this room? And I think that I really see it fitting for Garett. It could definitely apply because they said if not in the room, he was nearby, but 100% convinced he was watching. Would they say that and scare everybody that much? Or was it more of a sign to maybe Bridge Guy's family and his co-defendants and things like
No,
that?
I think Doug Carter and them with the and please listen to when I say this.
Okay.
Stay with me on this, and I'll make it make sense. When Doug Carter did that, I think he wanted to be the investigator that he has been before. He's very intelligent. He's very brilliant. Now, when you look at that, because he said the killer could be right here in this room, okay? Now, he wasn't really meaning that the killer was right there in the room with them. They knew better than that. They knew better. But when you go back to what he said, what do you think those that are around you are going to think when they find out what you've done to those two little girls? First of all, how do you know that the killer have people around him? Now, if you take yourself and put it in a jail or prison setting, and when these people find out that you done something terrible to some little girls, boy, you're in big trouble. So when Doug Carter said that, called him a coward, and said, what are you going to think those that go back and listen to the video and watch it, and he will say, what do you think those that are around you are going to think when they find out what you did to those two little girls? Well, who's to say that they're going to find out? You must know they're going to find out. You follow me?
Yeah, I mean, and it makes sense. He failed his polygraph. I mean, like I said, there's just I hate to because I'm so close and subjective, and I think it's obvious. I have an opinion now. It's just interesting to hear you say it. I'm just trying to play, you know.
Because listen, I want you to hear this. If I'm locked up, if I sexually assaulted, I'm not saying he did, but I'm just saying if I sexually assaulted two or one little girl and then murdered them, and I'm in jail, I don't want those that are around me to know what I did. Why? Because I'm going to be punished and probably killed. Because in jail and in prison, when you are in there with crimes against little girls or children, they will kill you.
Right, because they're all away from their children for life, right? I mean,
Well, that's just the prison code. It ain't about being away from the kids. It's the prison code. If you have,
right.
you could kill a kid, but if you didn't sexually assault or rape that child, the prison community will like, well, that was messed up what you did to a kid, and that's not cool, but it's okay. But if you sexually assaulted that child, then murder them, they will kill you. It's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's the rules of the jungle.
So am I hearing you right that you are speculating that it was sexually motivated?
Here's what I think, and let me be clear. I don't think, and I'm speculating here. I think when he got them to that one of them horse barns, I think he immediately went after Libby, and told her why he was doing what he was doing. And I think he killed her immediately. I think poor Abby, bless bless her heart, I think that poor baby watched her best friend get murdered. And then I think after that is possibly he sexually assaulted Abby and then killed her later. Because when we found out, when we was in Delphi, we found out that their death certificate dates were different. And I wanted to know why. And they said when volunteers found them that next day, because of the weather conditions, Abby's body was still warm. So that gave them the signs to believe that she was murdered that day.
Oh, it's just heartbreaking. Oh, so do you see the comment? Did it show up on your end?
No,
My
it didn't show
question.
up on my end. No, it didn't.
It says, you know how I feel about Ashley Garth, although it's an unpopular opinion to have. If Ashley is listening, what would you want her to know?
What I want Ashley to know is, and I want, and this is very, I want you to listen to this very clear. And so I'm gonna say this. Ashley, and you know, me and you talked about this. Ashley got out on a $5,000 bond. Me and Garett talked about this. He couldn't believe it, and I couldn't believe it. Here you are, a part of a murder of a beautiful woman. And then after the authorities met and talked with her, numerous authorities, now Garett gave a full confession about what he did to Nicole. He told on the rest and everything. So he gave a full confession. It's on video and everything. Now, so Garett goes to say, I said, well, Garett, why do you think they let Ashley out? Because she's a snitch and she wanted to get herself out of trouble. That's what she does. She manipulates her way out of everything. And then I says, no, Garett.
Yeah.
This is where he got upset with me. I said, Garett, why would they want her to snitch on something that you've already told them? So why do they say, okay, tell us about what, well, he did this to Nicole Bowen. Oh, he did? Okay, and he did this to Ray Hennis. Oh, okay, he did. Yeah, well, he told us that too. So
Right.
why do you give a deal to someone that already they are something to they already know? I think, just follow me here. I think actually told them something that they didn't know. And it was juicy enough for them to say, okay, we're going to let you out. You follow me here? So
I'm following you. I think that if that's the case, let's just say theoretically that's the case, um, and them offering the deal, then she's still bonded out, and then revoking the deal. It seemed, and they've made it public a few times that they're even today. It's in Gregory's article. You guys can find that on the video I posted. Because Garett was sentenced today for the murder of Nicole Bowen. He'll serve 55 years. And now that that's done, we were hoping that we would maybe hear some information on charging Garett for the murder of Ray Hainish. Garett did confess to me. So that's kind of where we're going and talking about this. But
well, you had said
Ashley, she must be fighting with what, maybe she's probably terrified, because if here's how I feel, is that what he did to her was, I mean, that's torture. What he did to Ashley in January of 2017. And what she did and her involvement in the Nicole Bowen is horrible. However, I think if I know you've speculated that maybe when he saw Libby, he made a connection with a family member, et cetera. And I kind of want to stay away from that as much as possible, because it's, but we want to do no harm. But I think that she knows, if this is the case and she's terrified, like maybe the deal isn't the best, I would encourage her to do and cooperate, if that's in fact what she was doing until this deal was pulled. And in order to cooperate, you got to go all the way in. Look at Crystal Kenny, she's out of prison, and what, a year, and it's horrible. I mean, she's, look what she did. So I think if Garett, if their connection is, the speculation, and you can touch on that a little bit, Ed. I think Garett may have done that and like taken it into his own hands, being an opportunity, not planned and stalked, but just
Well,
you know,
let me say this.
but I don't think she was involved in that, right? I mean,
No, I don't think she was involved either, but I think she knows something. I think she really, really knows some stuff.
And what, she wants a better deal?
Yeah. Here's my thing. If she was listening right now, my thing to her is don't play games with law enforcement. Last but not least, don't play with the victims' families, because those families deserve closure. And one thing I learned from Garett that I believe, Ashley is a manipulator, and she's not done manipulating. First she's got to find her way out of this situation, because she's been, brought into a world of trouble. And, I really truly believe that if Ashley can, distance herself from any of this, that she'll go back to being the old Ashley. So only time will tell. And, will she'll really, really be exposed to who she really is. And I agree with Garett when he said that she should be locked up right along with him. Hell yes, she should be. But I cannot criticize them for giving her a deal, because he had to give them something juicy for them to give her a deal.
Ed, I just want to remind, in case you didn't know, that they pulled that deal off the table recently, and they've said that they're still in negotiation with her attorney. She's still out on bond, but as of right now, legally, she is facing first-degree murder. And so take the 5 years, Ashley, if that's the case. And here's what I'll say if she's listening. Meth, I think, is Satan's drug, from what I've heard about it, and it's everywhere in every small town. Listeners here, and we all know people and know what it's like in our communities. You fell into it. You got into an abusive relationship using these drugs, as often as you did. And here we are, like, we need to go forward. I guarantee that there is, because Ashley Garth, what she did is inexcusable, and she does deserve to have and be incarcerated and be sanctioned for that criminal behavior. But there's a story and a human being there, as there is with anybody. And this is my favorite quote: when you're beyond redemption, anything is possible. And so I would say that if you're feeling completely misunderstood and living with this burden and the fear, it's probably got to be like psychological warfare, because she's facing a lot of time in prison. I would welcome her to come on and tell her side of the story, and I promise to listen and to be respectful. I really think it's not a good decision to not face up and own up to what you know and did. And it's that courage, So Ashley, you're always welcome on here. And when you're beyond redemption, anything is possible. So that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Now, where was this? Okay, let's see. Okay, we did that. So where do we go from here? Are we gonna, listen, I think we have Gregory with us. Let me add him. Aw. Can you hear me, Greg? You got to unmute yourself if you're here.
Yeah, I can hear you.
Do you have your
What's that?
Can you close your YouTube? It's echoing.
Okay.
Or am I on speaker?
How do I do that?
I don't know. Do you have the video streaming with you, Gregory? I think I was. Yeah, I still am. Are you streaming, Greg?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm actually, let's try to reconnect.
Okay.
All right, I just kicked you, Gregory. I don't know what the hell I'm doing, guys, but this is Gregory Myers. I'm gonna try and pull him up. He wrote the article and was at the Garett Kirts sentencing hearing today. Let's see, I had to stream. Does anybody know in chat? See, I'm not even reading chat. I have so much going on, but how we can maybe get him to not echo. Oh, okay. Greg, if you can hear me, for some reason, Ed, do you know what it is? Is it because maybe he has the stream opened?
Well, he has the stream open, and he was listening and then trying to participate at the same time. That's why I was echoing.
Okay. Greg, why don't you type in chat? Because it's, I don't think you can hear it on your end, but I think you have to just be through StreamYard. So, but we really want to hear from you. Okay, so Greg, when I add you, maybe try to log back in and make sure that you don't have the YouTube opened.
Yeah, the YouTube have to be closed. It has to be closed. He have to come in the way I did and not be listening to your show while participating.
Right, you just have to come through that link, which is where you're at. But it also, Gregory, it could be. Oh, you know what? It said try to put earbuds in. I think if you're heard echoing, I think I read that. So if you have some earbuds and you want to plug in, Greg, let's try that. But yeah, he wrote, and the video's up, guys, for anyone that's listening. I read the article he wrote. He provided us with, I think he's going out and coming back in. He provided us with the video footage of Garett today, and he has been very, very nice to me and awesome. Okay, I'm going to add you here. Let's see. Is that better? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear us, Greg?
He just probably got to unmute his mic.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can hear you guys.
Okay, let's see. Can we hear? I'm still echoing. Help me out.
Let me try one more time.
Okay, we can figure this out. It's okay. I'm known for my audio being bad. He'll be back. So yeah, guys, if you want after or whenever, you can hop over and check out that video. And then let's just send all of our prayers to the Bowen family. You know, I just can't imagine. I hope all the families and Ray Hainish's family knows, that we're all here. And I like to say no one left behind and partners in true crime. Hopefully Greg can come back in, and if not, I will. I'll have him come on and talk to us. Maybe tomorrow.
Yeah, I gotta get ready to head that way. So anything you want me to touch before I go?
Well, oh yeah, you have to work early, don't you?
Yes.
So how about you? Why don't you leave us with this? In summary, how do you feel like where we're sitting right now? And I guess, it's speculation, but.
Well, I'm gonna stick to what I said in the beginning. If you go to Crime Pursuit Podcast, we're everywhere. We're on Apple, iTunes, same thing, Spotify, iHeartRadio. We're everywhere. Um,
And
YouTube.
I'll get your links,
Yeah, we're
guys. And
everywhere. Anywhere where you can listen to platforms of podcasts, we are there. And we did Delphi 1 and 2. When you listen to that, the Ray Hannis podcast, the Nicole Bowen podcast, we break everything down. We go in everything. And, I said what I said. I went on the record and said what I said about who I believe is responsible for the Delphi murders. Um, Nothing has changed my mind. I went by the evidence that we dug up when we went, and I'm sticking to my guns. I'm sticking to the work that we put in, and as you know, in this true crime industry, you make enemies. You make enemies because
not me. People
you
might
don't
not like me,
always
but I love
you don't
everybody.
you don't always say the stuff that everybody wants to hear, and
You can't please everybody.
you
Absolutely
can't
not.
please everybody. And then you get somebody like Gray Hughes that, oh well, you stole my idea, or you did this and this and that, and you know, um, then you got Anthony Greeno, bless his heart. These guys want you to keep coming back to their
But
unit.
it's a good thing they're playing their part, because
Yeah.
here's how I feel about it is I think I want and as this is my, I guess technically third but second live show, and as I get more comfortable with the chatting, I think that we're going to be talking soon, Ed, and I think you kind of think so too. We
Hmm.
definitely will be, but now that this sentencing is done, I am expecting, and I encourage the deputy chief in White County to call me back, and I believe he will make a public statement regarding Ray now that Nicole's murdered, or now that Nicole is Garett is sentenced for her murder and torture. There's no reason why they should ignore it, and so I think that message will be well received. And now that this has happened, we kind of wait and see. And Gregory, I'm going to try to add him when you get off, Ed. But he reached out, and he'll tell us that. But I think they just said they wouldn't comment. But if we can eliminate Garett, we will be the first ones to do so. And if you guys have any information that eliminates him, definitively, or alibi, we are, definitely contact us. If your family, if you're affected by this, there's a lot of secondary victims, and don't feel like you have to be an outcast. You're always welcome here. And I want to encourage everybody. I think
You
the
know
more
what?
people that cover Delphi, let me just get this out. The more people that cover Delphi, the better. We need to welcome people that are going to ask silly questions about maybe involvement of family, or what side of the bridge they're on, or they're not going to, because the truth is that majority of people that listen to true crime, they can handle it. The people that come and watch and hear about Delphi are the new people, and those people, their hobby isn't the true crime, and it's not for everybody. It can be a
No,
tough,
it's not.
mentally draining thing. So we should not ever demean newcomers. We don't want to see the same, and you guys know what I mean. All 72 of you
Okay,
got
well, I
it.
want to put this out here. I,
But
I,
let me
I,
just
I
finish. We want to see new people, because if we're not seeing new people, we're not getting his video, Liberty's and Abigail's video that Gray Hughes stabilized. God bless his heart. He did a wonderful job. And like I said, everyone plays their part. But I think I'm just so proud of every single podcast and YouTuber that has covered this case. The more, the better. It's not going to harm it. You know
it's
how many
not going.
crime
And
victims wish
I'm
they,
glad you brought that up about other
yes.
YouTubers and podcasts. So I'm gonna leave this. I'm gonna leave this out here before I go. Now we are here. We're in January. Next month is the anniversary coming up for the Delphi murders. Okay? Now, if you feel that you think you have all the answers or whatever, I'm willing to work with anybody. I'm willing to work with anybody. I am planning on taking some more people and going back to the trail next month. That's my plan. And if anybody wants to get involved, whether you're in Indiana, whether you're out of state, whatever, inbox Ed Bounds on Facebook. And I will gladly welcome you and show you. We're planning on going to the trail, and I hope you come. And
I
if
I
we can
don't
put
like
a
to be
massive
in a
team,
car, so unless you're gonna send me an airplane, I probably won't. I can't
listen,
really drive for 30 minutes or
if
ride in
we
the
can
car.
put a massive team together and go to Delphi next month, I welcome it. I welcome it.
I feel like I just wonder. That's why I'm hoping that there's closure. And I really feel, guys, and call me crazy. I am. If if this is crazy, then I'll accept it. But I feel like we're close to getting answers, and I don't know what it is. We have our suspicions, but I think law enforcement can't wait for the day that they can explain to us what and why they couldn't
Oh,
before.
absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And it will happen. So, all right, I'm gonna get out of here. Like
Thank
I
you,
said,
Ed.
they can come. They can find me on YouTube as well, Crime Pursuit Podcast. If you send me a message, if you want to participate, I'll work with anybody. We just want to get this case resolved. So I am planning on going back to Delphi next month. Anybody that want to participate that feel that they have great investigative skills, hey, I don't think I'm better than you. Let's work together. I
We
am
all
willing.
have our strengths, right?
Yep,
And I like
absolutely. You go,
I
girl.
like talking to the people that nobody wants to talk to.
Yep.
But okay, Ed, well, I hope you get some rest. Thank you for staying up late, and hopefully that power doesn't go back out again. I heard it's I've heard
Oh
rumors
God.
of a blackout in America. So if that happens, it's all good. But
No,
Ed,
ours was dealing with weather related. So hopefully we don't have that again.
okay. Well, I think we might have some snow coming, but that's my favorite time of year. But Ed, we'll let you go. And guys, I'll put tomorrow, once this is up on YouTube, I'll put the links below where you can find Crime Pursuit and stay up to date. I'll give you guys a little hint that the series that we have kind of came together, and it's my concept for it is good sleuth, bad sleuth, and
Yeah.
stay tuned for more for more context, because it's kind of interesting how it played out between you and I, Ed. It just kind of worked perfectly. But alrighty, have a good night. I'm gonna see if Greg is in here once you're
All right, you keep doing a good job. You have a good night, girl.
You too. Thanks, bud.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Hey, Greg.
Yeah, could you hear me better?
Yes. Oh, I'm not echoing. Yay. Hi, Gregory.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. I'm so appreciative of you today. Sorry, I know I was overly excited, but how'd it go?
Well, it was interesting to say the least. I think, the family members, the law enforcement, the prosecutor's office, this was the day that a lot of them have been waiting for over a year now.
Yeah. Right. And it just so sad. And I was surprised he didn't speak. I was really surprised when you said that, because that was, I told him I encouraged that, just, how did he seem? Was he at all, emotional?
Throughout this whole process, Garett has shown little to no emotion. And that was the same again today. He did have his mask on, the white mask you see in the video, the entire time. But he almost made it a point not to look up. He had papers in front of him, and he kept his eyes on the papers while Nicole's aunt and mother spoke. At one point, Nicole's mother even, reached and said to him, "Can you please just look at me while I speak to you?" And
Oh my goodness. Did he look up?
he did. And after some encouragement, I think, from his public defender, he did look up for a little bit.
Wow. And was it just, do you think, hitting him as much?
I think
he has no remorse, does he?
No, I haven't seen any remorse out of him in any of the court hearings. And I think today he was just maybe anxious about the next stage because, and I think that's why he shaved his head, because he is, as soon as that hearing was over, he's going to the Department of Corrections, not the Newton County Jail anymore.
That's right. He's there right now, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Wow. Yeah, he had to have been. I just, your article's great, guys. This is the gentleman I was talking about. And is it Newsbug or Newton? Where you're an editor?
Yeah, Newsbug is the website of our cluster of papers in White County, Jasper, and Newton County, a little bit over the edge to Illinois. There's about 10 papers in that cluster. Our website is Newsbug, but each of our papers have their individual websites as well.
And which individual paper do you work for again?
I am now the editor of the Newton County Enterprise, which I have been for about 6 years. And I have also picked up duties for the Kankakee Valley Post News, which is in DeMott, Indiana.
Awesome. So you're growing. I hadn't talked to you since, I guess, when, the last hearing or no, I think I was.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah. I was glad you stored my number, but you really came through. So are you interested in covering and doing a story on Ray Hainish if I get you some, contact with some family, or do you have to,
he's in Reynolds, where he was found. Is in White County. We do have a paper there called the Monticello Herald Journal, and they run one article about Kirts connected to Hainish, and
no one's covered it.
Yeah, it has not received as much press as Nicole Bowen's death, and that's a shame. But I think
so you should do it, or stick to your account. I'm a citizen journalist, let's say. So
I mean, any information I get, I will pass on to the editor at that location, and follow it up. Just like
I called today to the White County Sheriff, and I spoke with the dispatcher there, and then I left a lengthy message for the deputy chief or deputy chief maybe, and in light of the sentencing, because we don't know what they know, and I've been trying to do the benefit of the doubt that I'm expecting them to announce charges because of just the evidence of his confession to me, but they need to at least make a comment, and I think they're going to take us up on that offer, but I think a little bit of press will be, helpful in, getting them to actually, acknowledge this to the public. whether it's good or
Yeah,
bad or what, it's unacceptable to not. So any help, we appreciate that. I know his family really, really appreciates that.
sure, sure. The one thing is there is a little of a conflict going on right now in White County between the sheriff's office and the prosecutor's office. There was a story that one of our papers did a few weeks ago where the prosecutor went to the county council, which is the organization that controls the funds for the county, and the county commissioners, which were the executives, were there too. And he pretty much told them that the sheriff's department is refusing to work with them on cases, and that they have to provide evidence to defense attorneys, and that department's making it hard on them.
Are we talking about in general or for like pandemic crimes?
In general.
Okay, because I know some sheriffs weren't enforcing, they weren't ticketing for masks, and which, but
right.
But
yeah, no, this is
a big story, and that's interesting because I let him know, the deputy chief. I believe I'm saying that right, but I really believe he's gonna give me a comment on the record. But I let him know that the prosecutor isn't viewed in the best light publicly, but whoever first, I think both should reach back out, and hopefully they do. But maybe that's interesting to hear. It kind of like breaks my heart because I was thinking that once this was done, maybe they would announce, but maybe that's wishful thinking.
And that still could happen. I just wanted to let you know that there was, some kind of conflict going on, and it's kind of political. But even though they're the same party, there's some conflict going on.
Drain the swamp across America. These people aren't working for the people. I'm telling you, people gotta rise up and run for office. Regular Americans,
Yeah,
it's disgusting. Parties.
And I was listening earlier, and I found it very interesting when you guys were talking about the drug dealing and the situation. And Newton County is in a very unique situation because Newton County borders on to the state of Illinois. And directly across the border, midway up the county, is a place called Hopkins Park, Illinois. And Hopkins Park is notorious for being one of the poorest towns in America. At one point, Oprah even did a special on it. And it's a drug dealer's haven. Drug dealers from Chicago set up camp there. A lot of drug dealing going out of that area.
And it's all the cartels are at the top, are in with all of those different, gangs, and they are dilapidating. Did I say that right? Drugs. And it just goes to show Nicole Bowen today, right? I mean, I thought that was very important that the judge and prosecutor and everyone covered how badly drugs are, affecting our young men growing up. Look at all the violent crime. He is young. And I swear, guys, and I'm not, I don't mean this in like a conservative Bible way, but I think the pornography, I worry about our kids' generation growing up with that trash. It's just, could it, that mixed with the drugs, it just seems like we've lost our way. We gotta, and it's so sad, these addicts, they're hooked, right?
Right. And I thought it was extremely interesting that both the judge and the prosecutor here in Newton County both pointed out that, drug use is not a victimless crime. and that the victim in that is the society in the area, because it does affect everyone.
It does. It really does. And it's bad. And you guys, I mean, I saw somebody in the chat, and I'm so sorry, guys. I'm not able to read it. I have to kind of focus on one thing at a time. But Americans are getting new parties. The Democrats are abandoned by their leaders. They're pissed off. Progressives, Justice Democrats and Republicans have abandoned their party. And it's the people, people say that our country's on the verge of civil war. And my 2 cents, for what it's worth, is research for yourself what's going on, and don't be influenced by the narratives, right? We were talking about that, Gregory, right? The censorship.
Yes.
It's so important right now that Americans talk to each other. And I tell on Twitter, and for those of you that don't know, I mean, I have conservative ideology and views. And I voted for President Trump 2 years in a row. And now I'm facing, I've already had 2 suspensions on Twitter, and my account's going to be gone, guys. And during a lockdown, nobody should be censored. And I'm proud of the other side of the aisle, because the people are really standing up. It's like the progressives and the patriots are finding common ground, because the censorship's out of control. We got to talk, or else how are we going to fix these problems that are in every small town USA,
Yeah, exactly. And after the sentencing hearing, and when you text me, and I told you I was in an interview, what I was doing is I left the courthouse and went over to the prosecutor's office and talked to him, got some comments for the article, and then we talked because him and his investigator had actually went up to Washington, D.C. on the day all that stuff happened. And
really?
Yes. And I wanted to do a story on it. And at first, he was like, no, he's like, I don't really want to do anything on it. And I'm like, I think it'd be a really good story. This other side hasn't been done. And I think it was Saturday night. I was covering a basketball game, actually. And I get a text from him and says, okay, I'll do the interview. And I said, what changed? He's like, the censorship of Parler now, and how big tech is shutting down Parler.
$1 billion company overnight gone. Boom. Yeah. It's a crime to be a Trump supporter right now. And
it is.
And let it be known that this isn't about Donald Trump. This isn't about Donald Trump at all. Donald Trump is a symptom of the American people being absolutely ignored and our country driven into communism. I mean, our leaders, we all know that, and it's always men versus women, black versus white, conservative versus liberal, and race. It's just, they pit us against each other. And meanwhile, both party leaders and the establishment is stealing our money, and they're serving their own interests. And that's the politics of it. And for those of you that don't know, Parler, because everyone was taken off of Twitter, there was 3 different rounds of purges. And I'm not kidding you guys. These are Americans, normal, as normal as we are, you and I here, that wake up and have now no ability to contact society because they're locked down in a pandemic. I mean, I'm in Michigan. We're still locked down. My kids are still remote learning. I fear that I won't be able to talk to you guys, and it could happen. That's a reality. And Greg, you can speak to that. I think people should understand what's happening. So maybe explain that a little more.
Yeah. I guess I'll start off. I have been small town community journalism for over 16 years now. And newspapers are going out of business left and right because of Facebook and Google, because they control the digital advertising. And a recent poll of Americans showed that 70% of people get their news from Facebook. And when Facebook is heavily censoring posts, that's a big problem. And this article I did right after a sentencing hearing, is a conversation with two local residents that went to Washington, D.C., and their experience was nothing like you saw that's being shown on TV.
None of it. Story isn't being shown properly, and 75 million Americans weren't at the Capitol that day. Let me make it clear. I think what happened at the Capitol is tragic. I do believe it was an insurrection, but I think that it's projection, and this is just my opinion, unpopular as it may be. And I can't shut up about, I can't lie. They're almost making, when they take away your ability to have different language, that is, that's how they live in China. What's the leader of Russia, the opposition leader that was rising up, I forget his name, that was poisoned this last year, like in the past few months, right? He has spoken out saying what's happening here is terrifying with the censorship. I believe, how is it not a national security threat that the leader of the free world for the last, 9 days he's in office is able to speak to the people he's there to protect and serve? And not just that, but look at all the other politicians that have been taken offline. Yeah. Devin Nunes.
But when 90% of mainstream media is part of one viewpoint and some say one agenda, you're not going to see that. They're not going to show the outrage. They lumped in all pro-Trump supporters into terrorists now.
And the ABC, a high up at ABC broadcasting said that Trump supporters should be cleansed. Are you kidding me? Why are we impeaching? Okay, I saw a quote today. I should read it to you guys. But what's happening right now is the people that voted, the 81 million people that voted for President-elect Biden and Vice President-elect Harris, were promised Medicare for all. Were promised these things that they won't even vote on because they are impeaching this president because they don't want him to ever be able to run again. And like him or hate him, they're not working for the American people. It took Nancy Pelosi, she denied stimulus for us for 8 months. This is facts, but she drafted a second article of impeachment in 5 days. It's just unbelievable, and they're not serving their voters. And a lot of voters are pissed, and it's scary times.
Yeah, they're supposed to vote on that impeachment in the House on Wednesday, and
it's like panic. It seems like why something seems off right now, and I think I think a lot of things are gonna be declassified on Trump's way out, and hopefully they are, because the truth belongs with the people.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised after he's out, they don't try to go after him criminally for some trumped up, excuse the pun, charges.
And we have to ask ourselves, why is that? Why is it that everybody, the biggest coordinated effort, this isn't, I don't disagree. I don't agree with everything Trump says. I certainly always don't disagree with him. He's the only one that's listened. he's the only one that's listened and done things that are good. I mean, you guys, in March of 2020, Americans, I think it was a poll, and it was actually listed on MSNBC that 79% Americans had never been better. It's like, it just seems like maybe a lot of their dirty secrets are their agenda. And that could be, conspiratorial, but I mean, how can we not be conspiratorial? They've lied to us about everything.
Yeah. And, that was a quote I got from our prosecutor who went to Washington. He said, I went up there to observe, because when you're not getting the full story from the mainstream media, that's a problem. And it really is. And I just see it getting worse.
And it seems that they know. Well, they do know. I mean, let's face it. I think that I don't think it's this big giant like conspiracy where they talk on the phone. I think it's that there are certain reporters that are obviously Jeff Zuck. They are working on behalf of the China Communist Party, and now the president's unable to go anywhere. Not Snapchat, not Instagram, not Facebook. I mean, that's a national security threat. And don't be surprised, America, if the Insurrection Act is signed or has been signed. Don't let it scare you. Whatever happens. I mean, we have the other big story no one's talking about. It's kind of what's happening that they're not talking about. You know what I mean? And they have 180 days from a few weeks ago to disclose everything they have on, unidentified aerial phenomena. And that was passed in the omnibus. That's something that people don't know. So shit's like going to hit the fan, and I feel like it's a good thing. We're going to know what happened. Hopefully, the rest of what's the report called for JFK, but, I think that's when we're going to heal. I just want everyone to stay strong. And if you hear that there are Trump supporters violent and armed in all 50 states or any of 50 states, all I would say is look closer, because everything isn't what it seems. And I wish I could share more of that on the channel, and I have a little bit. But like I said, if I could be gone tomorrow, guys, this channel. And so when they take away your right to speak to each other during a global lockdown, what are they hiding? It's just not, it's not natural, right? We got to trust what we see with our own two eyes.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions.
Exactly. Power of questions.
Because there's nothing more dangerous than being uneducated about crucial issues. So yeah, ask questions. There's no question that's stupid. If you don't know about something, ask it. But but check multiple sources too.
Right, like look at both, because the media. I mean, it is hard, but I want to do this. I'm going to do a story on this. And this is I'm just going to say this on the record in case I ever have to go in front of a judge one day and give an argument as to why I shouldn't have been removed from the YouTube Partner Program and I'm not violating terms of service. I am just here trying to connect and help any way I can, losing my mind during a global lockdown here in Michigan. My kids are losing their minds. This is my only outlet to society. And I'm not trying to spread disinformation or do no harm. I'm trying to have a discussion about the state of our union with fellow Americans, right? And so I just have to put that on the record because I'm scared my channel's going to be ruined, Yeah,
I mean, YouTube is a tech giant too. So.
Oh yeah, that's my boss technically. Yeah. I'm trying to earn back the call with Garett because if he wants to talk, I think it was like $445, and I'm not far away. I think I've made like with ads, with monetizing here, I think I've made like $396 total. But yeah, and I don't go live a lot, but I know that that was worth it, and I'll make that back over time. But I just worry. I don't want to let it silence me, though, because people
Right.
are really, really scared about what's going on right now. I just look closer and, ask questions, right? I
Yeah,
really, I'm glad that you came on. That's so awesome. I really didn't think you'd even consider it. But I'm glad I sent you this link.
oh yeah, I think
Nancy,
it's,
for her laptop and vodka, Miss Glass says. Can I just say real quick, the funniest thing ever on Twitter is that the patriots that are left, and a lot of the progressives too, and Glenn Greenwald, do you not agree, Gregory? I mean, as a journalist, he is speaking truth to power,
oh, definitely. And
Um,
I'm not a political person. I personally don't agree with the two-party system that the United States have, and I think that is a huge reason why the country's so divided and polar right now. I wish there wasn't political parties that would get rid of a lot of our issues and people voted for the person and what they are saying instead of the letter by their name.
and demand something for your vote. The fact that I put a video up of Jimmy Dore, the Jimmy Dore show, and people are pissed, and it for once right now, if Trump, before he can leave, if he can just give us the truth and restore our faith, I guess, in the FBI and Department of Justice, because without anybody being held accountable for 2016 and Durham, Durham that's the biggest true crime story of the century, guys. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of people don't realize that, but when people are saying one side is doing one thing, it seems as though the consistent pattern in the past year has been that it's the total opposite,
Yeah.
And Jim Comey and John Brennan and Jim Clapper, and there's Peter Strzok, Lisa Page. I mean, what they did to this country, this is why we're here right now. One half of the country thinks that Donald Trump's a Russian agent and was an illegitimate president for 4 years. And now the other half of the country thinks the election was hijacked. And, there's really solid argument and science about just the censorship and the algorithms from big tech alone, that changed. I won't cite the number, but like 5 million votes. There's reason to question why we weren't told Hunter Biden was under, two serious investigations. And it's not Republican or Democrat. It's like, I feel like the Clinton machine is what needs to leave Washington, and more everyday people like myself. Truly, I think about it often. As dirty as politics is, I think that it's time we run, and I think that everyday Americans that just want our civil liberties and peace will be elected. That's the optimist in me.
Yeah, and I think anything that is considered a political machine should be gone. I fully believe in term limits. That's the only way you get rid of that. Because once you're in there, you're not working for the people anymore. You're working to get reelected and to get more money to be reelected.
Yep, and we got to take the money out of politics too. It's just so dirty. But when we get these echo chambers, what's the quote about people that are suppressing the speech? Like people say Donald Trump's a dictator. If he was a dictator, he wouldn't be banned on Twitter, and everything else. It's the other way around, right?
No, right. If true dictators hold all the power, and we know that's not the case here in America. I'm a bit.
Yeah.
I'm a big evidence guy, So if, there's a scandal, I want to see the evidence. But when
Right.
you're not getting true reporting, you're getting censorship, and you're getting companies that tell the reporters you're reporting on this and not that.
Yeah.
You don't get that. You do not get that.
It's our basic, it's what keeps this republic a republic. Supreme Court Justice William Douglas said, restriction of free thought and free speech is the most dangerous of all subversions. It is the one un-American act that could most easily defeat us. And I know, and it's, what's the good part is that it seems like the actual people that aren't in, the DC, New York, California loop, it seems like people are waking up, I guess, but the
Yes.
drug, it's an interesting story, an interesting interview you had. And I want to share more of, I'll get those links from you. And, I'll post on my community tab your stories. I want to break some big news, Project Veritas is a pretty cool movement going on. I don't know what you think about that approach, but it seems like people need the truth, what they fear the most, the establishment is being exposed.
And personally, I don't know a lot about that, to be honest with you.
Yeah, no, sorry. I could go on and on, but, well, thanks so much, Gregory, for coming on. We'll see what news drops. Maybe you can reach out, see if they want to comment, again for me. Appreciate
Sure.
it. And,
and I knew with the state police, they would give their typical, a statement,
yeah,
I do wish there was more information that could be released, but
maybe
you also don't.
On the phone.
Yeah.
Because you might not get a comment, but you'll definitely get some energy,
Sure. And you could tell a lot more in someone's voice when they respond than via email.
100%. And yeah, I want to read your story. So I will get with you tomorrow. And everybody that's here, thanks so much for being here. Check out.
It was a pleasure.
And for everyone that's listening, this is Gregory Myers, and he wrote that wonderful article. I put a video up earlier today, so you'll have to check that out. And you're local, so we're gonna.
I'm about 50 minutes from Delphi.
Perfect. That's awesome. I'm so glad that I. Sorry, I messed everything up. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
But yeah, for everybody that's listening, I will check out that article. The link is in the description, and I'll share it too. And we're gonna talk again soon, I promise.
I would love that.
All right, guys. Well, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks for being here. Everybody have a good night, okay? And Greg, I'll talk to you this week.
All right.
All right.
You have a great week.
You too. Good night, everybody.
All right.
Bye-bye.